The Federal and Pedesta Hospital jointly present the Kanyakumari Marathon 2025. This event is co-presented by Rojavanam International School. Run for Health on Sunday, May 4. Entry is free and all are welcome.
Hello and welcome to the Federal. Just over 2 weeks after the Waqf Amendment Act came into force, petitions challenging the act were heard in the Supreme Court today. There are over 70 petitions now, still counting, more coming in with every passing day. Uh, Today, in the Supreme Court, these petitions were heard for admission, but the hearing turned into a very significant one because the court, as the court itself noted, that at the admission stage, the court generally does not pass interim orders. But it was almost about to, in fact, the Chief Justice, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, almost began dictating an interim order when lawyers, the Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, appearing for the government, the central government, and some other lawyers for respondents, pleaded with the court to be heard at length before the interim order is passed. And so the interim order will now likely be passed tomorrow. The court has said that the matter will be heard again at 2 p.m. tomorrow. And so the interim order wasn't passed today. It's expected tomorrow. But what were the significant takeaways in the hearing today? The act, as you all know, has been an extremely controversial piece of legislation. The critics of the act, whether they're leaders from the opposition, many of whom are also petitioners now, or Islamic organizations, even non-Islamic other religious organizations who've joined as petitioners now, they've been claiming that this act is an assault on the fundamental right to practice one's religion. It goes against various other articles of the Constitution. One of the key accusations made at or criticisms hurled at the act is that it discriminates against the Muslims and their right to practice their faith and make religious endowments or waqf in accordance with that practice of their religion. So one category in the act which was banned of a category of making endowments was called Waqf by user. It's an endowment that dates back to the foundation of Islam. It basically is a religious endowment created in the name of Allah. But since many of these endowments are not registered, that these are the Waqf by user category are basically orally made endowments. And the new act had banned Waqf by user. The new act said that unless and until a Waqf property is registered, which is Waqf by deed, it will not be treated as Waqf. It cannot be called a Waqf property. So today in the hearing, very significantly, the Supreme Court pointedly told Solicitor General Tushar Mehta that are you seeking a blanket ban on Waqf by user? If you are doing so, this could have very serious consequences. And the Chief Justice went to the extent of saying you cannot undo the past. And then certain examples were cited, like the Jama Masjid of Delhi. The court also asked that Waqf by user, various properties that are called Waqf, that are made as endowments through the Waqf by user mode, are properties that were given as endowments centuries ago. So how do you produce registration deeds for such properties? So one of the key sort of orders that was likely to be passed tomorrow now, but which the Chief Justice did mention just before he decided to defer passing the interim order, was that the Waqf by user category, all properties that fall under it, which have already been upheld by various courts, will not be denotified by the government. So they will continue to be Waqf properties, whether they are Waqf by user or also whether they are Waqf by deed, because Waqf by deed anyway is what the government has made mandatory now under the new act. So the interim order said Waqf by user cannot be denotified if it has already been upheld by courts. The second aspect, which the court talked about while saying that it wanted this too to be part of the interim order, is another very controversial subject within the Waqf Act. The Waqf Act proposes that if there is a Waqf property, now this can be a Waqf by user property, it can be a Waqf by deed property, any sort of Waqf property, on which the government has laid claim. We've seen multiple examples of this kind where Waqf land has been claimed by one or the other department of the government as land belonging to the government. And then disputes have happened, various petitions are going on in different courts on such matters. So the act had said that if a Waqf property is disputed by the government and the government says that this property belongs to us and not to Waqf, then an inquiry will be set up under the collector. The collector will conduct the inquiry. Till the time the inquiry is on, that property will not be considered Waqf property. It will be considered government property. And only after an inquiry finds that property to be Waqf, if at all it does so, then it can be returned to Waqf. Otherwise, the property remains government property. Today, the Supreme Court said that in such a case, while a collector inquiry can carry on as per the stipulations in the new act, while that inquiry is on, the Waqf property will not be considered government property. It will continue to be considered Waqf property. The court has said that that particular proviso of the new act, which gave the government the right to claim a disputed, a Waqf property that the government itself has said belongs to us, that particular proviso will not be given effect to till these petitions are disposed of. So that was the second key aspect which the court said it could include in its interim order. I keep laying stress on the word interim because the final orders, of course, it's just admission stage of these petitions. These hearings will go on. The final orders may not reflect what the interim order says, but at least till that time, this is what the court said would be the situation with Waqf properties. The third aspect of the act, which is also very controversial, which has triggered protests of across the country on by the Waqf boards, the opposition leaders, and all, was was the provision in the new act that a Waqf board at the state level or the Central Waqf Council can have non-Muslim members, and the opposition, the Islamic clergy, people associated with Waqf boards had been citing examples of endowment boards, trusts belonging to other religions, including the Ram Mandir Trust, the Kashi Vishwanath Trust, the Tirupati Tirumala board, and number of these religious trusts, the non-Muslim religious trusts, the Shiromani Gurdwara Prabandhak Committee, which takes care of Gurdwaras, and asked a simple question: that will the government allow non-Hindus to be on Hindu endowment trusts, or non-Sikhs to be part of the SGPC. So that was a very contentious issue. Today, the court said that it is thinking that in its interim order, it would say that barring ex officio members, all other members of the Waqf board or the Waqf council will have to be Muslims. And in fact, interestingly, during the course of the arguments, the opening arguments in the case today, the court pointedly asked Solicitor General Tushar Mehta that will you allow Muslims to be part of Hindu trusts? And then, prodded him further to say, and asked him that you have to say this openly. Will you allow it? And subsequently, they said that we are considering that our interim order will say that barring ex officio members meaning the act says that members of parliament can be members of the Waqf board. Now, members of parliament, of course, may not be Muslims. So, but their presence in the Waqf board would be as an ex officio member, since they are the MP from the state or the MP chosen at the central level. So, barring those such categories which are categorized as ex officio members, the others have to be Muslims. These were the three key aspects that the court said it could include in its interim order. As I said earlier, the interim order, which was likely to be passed today, has now been deferred till tomorrow. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., the court will hear submissions by the Solicitor General, by other counsel for respondents, also perhaps the counsel for various petitioners. But three key aspects likely to figure in that interim order. The first one, as I said, that properties already declared as Waqf, be it Waqf by user or Waqf by deed, by various courts, will not be denotified. Second, that non-Muslims will not be made members of Waqf boards and Waqf councils except under the ex officio category. And third, the proviso under the Act, which gave collectors the power to conduct an inquiry, and during the pendency of such inquiry, Waqf property disputed as government land would essentially be treated as government land. That proviso will not be given effect to. So, three key aspects today of what the court said it is considering for an interim order. There are, of course, various other issues, pointed questions that the court raised, whether they will have more discussions on this tomorrow or in the course of the hearings in the case, which are now likely to follow. We'll have to wait and see. Tomorrow's hearing, of course, will also tell us whether these 3 points remain in the interim order or the court fine-tunes it further, adds some elements or removes some elements. So tomorrow's hearing, again, will be a very critical, very crucial one. But as far as what the court has said today, it is, in a way, a rap on the government, because the government had been told by members of the opposition, by leaders of the Islamic community, that each of these provisions they are making in the law are going to land into trouble with the court. Today, at least directionally, the court has sort of been inclined to accept that criticism of the act, and otherwise it wouldn't have made these part of or considered to make these part of the interim order. So we'll have to wait and see, of course, tomorrow what happens. The hearings, as I said, are just starting. Much more is to be discussed as far as the Waqf Act is concerned. So do stay tuned to the Federal, and we'll keep getting you such updates.
The Federal and Pedesta Hospital jointly present the Kanyakumari Marathon 2025. This event is co-presented by Rojavanam International School. Run for Health on Sunday, May 4. Entry is free and all are welcome.